I still remember the way her eyes sparkled the first time I told her about the competition. This could be everything we dreamed of, Mira. Investors, exposure, a chance to put our brand on the map. She'd cupped my face, smiling wide, whispering, "I believe in you, Ayan." Those words played on repeat in my mind during every sleepless night, every pitch rehearsal, every moment I felt like giving up. I wasn't doing it for glory. I wasn't chasing applause. I was doing it for us, because Mira was the heart of our brand. Her designs, my business acumen, we were the perfect pair. Or so I believed. It's funny how betrayal doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it strolls in wearing the perfume you gifted her on your anniversary, on her arm, another man. She walked into the event venue 2 hours after I presented. She didn't even look at me. Her hand was locked in his, their laughter loud, rehearsed, too comfortable. I stood frozen as cameras flashed around them, journalists whispering her name. Mira. My wife. Only she wasn't introduced as Mira Rahman, co-founder of our startup. No. She was Mira Aslam, creative partner to celebrity investor Ryan Malik. My wife. My idea. My dream. All of it, stolen. And in that moment, I didn't feel heartbreak. I didn't feel anger. I felt cold. She thought I joined the competition for her. But she forgot, I never lose. Not without taking everything down with me. Mira and I met 5 years ago at a charity gala neither of us wanted to attend. She was standing by the exit in a cheap black dress that still managed to make her look like royalty. I was nursing a drink, pretending to care about the fashion show running on stage. We locked eyes across the room like something out of a bad romantic movie. But what happened next wasn't scripted, it was raw, unexpected, real. She laughed at something I said about the overpriced wine, and I remember thinking, God, she has no idea how bright she is. Back then, she was an unknown designer working part-time at a boutique, stitching for clients who couldn't pronounce her name. I was a management consultant sick of corporate life, secretly saving to launch a brand of my own. It didn't take long for our ambitions to collide. She had vision. I had structure. Together, we built Mirai, a label that fused her name with mine. A brand people slowly started to notice. We worked out of our apartment, burning midnight oil and surviving off instant noodles and blind faith. She always said I believed in her before she believed in herself. Maybe that's why I never imagined she'd stop believing in us. We got married in a quiet ceremony 2 years ago, no press, no frills, just us on a rooftop with fairy lights and promises. She wore a dress she designed herself. I handled the logistics. That's how it always was. Mira was fire, temperamental, artistic, impulsive. I was water. Calculating, composed, always thinking 5 steps ahead. We clashed. We fought. But we never walked away. Until he came along. Ryan Malik, celebrity entrepreneur, the kind of man headlines adore. He invested in rising brands and paraded them around like trophies. When he attended one of our pop-up shows last fall, I thought it was a win. He complimented Mira's designs, asked about our story, even invited us to his yacht party, though only Mira went, claiming I wouldn't fit the vibe. I ignored the knot in my stomach. Because I trusted her. And because I was too focused on preparing for the Phoenix pitch, the biggest startup competition in the country. Winning it meant funding, exposure, partnerships, the whole future. I told Mira I'd do the talking, she'd showcase the designs. We'd go as a team. But a week before the event, she got sick. Told me she'd skip this one. Now I know, she wasn't sick. She was switching sides. I joined the competition for her. I pushed past exhaustion, anxiety, humiliation, for us. Only to find out she'd already made her choice. And now, I'm about to make mine. The morning of the competition, I was wired from lack of sleep and too much caffeine. Mira still hadn't responded to my texts. No, good luck, no, you've got this, not even a thumbs up emoji. It was strange. She'd never missed a milestone before, not even the small ones. Still, I chalked it up to nerves. Maybe we'd argued too much lately. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Or maybe I just didn't want to face what I already suspected. I walked into the Grand Convention Center clutching our prototype samples, dressed in the suit she picked for me 6 months ago when we dreamed about this day together. She'd said I looked like a CEO. I tried to hold on to that memory as I stepped onto the stage and pitched our story. Our brand. Her designs. My strategy. I spoke like we were still a team, like Mira and I were still building the future together. The judges nodded. Investors leaned in. I saw interest bloom in their eyes. And for a moment, I felt it, hope. Then came the announcement, the wildcard entry. A surprise late addition to the finalists list. The judges called out, Mira Aslam and Ryan Malik for Aslan Designs. My ears rang. I froze mid-step as the spotlight shifted. She walked in wearing white. Elegant. Polished. Beside her, Ryan grinned like he owned the room. Mira didn't look at me. Not once. The judges raved about the line. About the story. Ryan told them how Mira had left a restrictive creative partnership to pursue her own voice. Restrictive? Was that what I was now? A cage? I clapped with everyone else, mechanically. My hands felt numb. But inside, something broke. That's when I realized, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a misstep. This was a coup. And I wasn't just the loser of a deal. I was the discarded partner of a woman who'd replaced me, publicly, without remorse. She hadn't come to support me. She'd come to bury me. And I wasn't about to let her. I left the stage that day without looking back at her. People came up to me, offering polite praise and curious glances. One investor even said, tough luck going up against Mira and Ryan. Their line is so fresh. Fresh. I wanted to laugh. There was nothing fresh about what she presented. It was our fall-winter capsule. The sketches we had pinned on our bedroom wall. The ideas we brainstormed over late-night tea and half-eaten toast. She hadn't just taken inspiration, she had taken everything. I replayed the scene in my head as I sat in the back seat of my car, jaw clenched, phone buzzing. Messages were pouring in. Friends. Industry contacts. Some asking if I knew. Others pretending not to. And then, finally, Mira. Mira, I'm sorry you had to find out like this. Mira, we were drifting. I didn't want to hurt you. Mira, it just happened, Ayan. Just happened. Like love was a pothole she tripped into, and I was expected to step aside as she waltzed off with my dream and a new man. I didn't reply. Not that night. Not the next. But I watched. I watched the headlines roll out, new power duo shakes up fashion scene. From shadows to spotlight, Myra's reinvention. She did interviews where she called our past, a learning phase. She praised me as, methodical, but too structured. Claimed she needed someone who understood her creativity. And Ryan? He played the savior, feeding off her betrayal like it was some tragic romance he had rescued her from. Every post. Every sound bite. It tore into me, but it also sharpened something in me. If Mira wanted reinvention, I would give her the full story. I still had all the receipts. I still had every design file, time-stamped under our co-owned brand folders. Contracts. Emails. Sketchbooks with my notes in the margins. She thought I'd crumble. That I'd retreat, lick my wounds, and disappear. But I didn't disappear. I filed for IP theft within a week. Quietly. Legally. Then I did something I knew would hurt more. I called Anaya. Anaya was Myra's closest friend, and one of the few people who had warned me, once, in whispers, she loves the idea of being adored, Ayan. Just be careful she doesn't chase applause more than you. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Mira had made sure of that. But when I called, Anaya answered on the second ring. Her voice was cautious, but not surprised. You know, I always hoped you'd see it yourself, she said. You were too loyal to her to hear the rest of us. Help me tell the truth, I said. There was a pause. Then, her quiet response, I'm in. Together, we began building a timeline. Every moment Mira had crossed a line. Every design she claimed as hers but originated from our shared work. We gathered statements from vendors, suppliers, and former interns. Everyone who knew what Mira really was. And all the while, Mira kept climbing. Until the day she received a legal notice, and panic set in. That night, she showed up at my apartment. Hair pulled back, lips trembling, but still trying to look like she had control. I didn't think you'd actually go this far, she said. You thought I'd just take it? I asked. Her jaw clenched. We built that together, Ayan. You think dragging me through court will fix anything? No, I said. But it'll remind the world who actually built it. She stared at me. And for the first time, I saw fear, not guilt, in her eyes. Not because she regretted what she did. But because she finally realized I wasn't the quiet man she left behind. I was the storm she'd created. And I was just getting started. A week before the court hearing, Anaya sent me a file. This changes everything, her message read. I opened the attachment expecting another design mock-up or witness statement. But what I found stopped my breath. It was a contract. Dated 3 months before the Phoenix pitch. Signed between Ryan Malik and Mira Aslam. It detailed a silent acquisition of Mira's assets. Partial intellectual property, client lists, and design templates. Mira had agreed to sell 51% stake in the company to Ryan, without my knowledge. The kicker. She'd forged my signature. Not only had she betrayed me emotionally and professionally, she had committed fraud, slicing our joint venture from underneath me while sleeping in my bed. The betrayal was deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't about falling for someone else. This was calculated. Cold. Mira had played the long game. She hadn't drifted away. She had planned her exit, built her escape, and sold me out before I ever stepped onto that competition stage. Suddenly, everything clicked, the late-night calls she took outside, the strange new passwords on our shared accounts, her sudden burnout weeks before the event. She didn't just fall for another man. She partnered with him to destroy me. I stared at the file for a long time, something inside me hardening into steel. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. And now, it was my turn to make one. Not just to fight her. To expose her. Everything. Not out of spite. But because people like Mira don't stop unless they're made to bleed for what they've stolen. And I intended to make her bleed, reputation first. I didn't sleep that night. The forged contract burned into my mind like a scar. Anaya offered to testify. Said she'd seen Mira in meetings with Ryan months ago, even confronted her once. Mira had laughed it off, calling it future planning. Future, indeed. Just one without me. The next morning, I met with a new legal team. A senior corporate litigator named Rayhan took one look at the contract and raised an eyebrow. This isn't just betrayal, he said. It's criminal. She's looking at fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and theft of intellectual property. This could end her career. That's the point, I replied, voice like ice. We filed an injunction against Mira and Ryan, freezing all public promotion of Aslan designs. They were caught off guard. The media began digging. Within days, headlines shifted. Legal cloud hangs over rising fashion duo. Ex-husband of Mira Aslam alleges design theft, forgery. Startup darling or stylish scammer. Mira released a statement calling it a domestic misunderstanding, but people weren't buying it. She looked rattled in interviews, her words rehearsed but her eyes unsure. Ryan, true to form, stood beside her, smiling that smug, PR-trained grin. But I knew how these types worked. They were loyal only to their interests. And I had just made Mira very inconvenient. The pressure mounted. Brands began pulling out of pre-orders. Magazine covers were postponed. Stylists started choosing other labels. The public eye is merciless, once they sense a fall, they feast. A week before the court hearing, Mira sent me a message. Mira, can we talk? Please. Just you and me. Part of me didn't want to respond. She deserved silence. But another part of me, the part that once loved her, needed to see her break. Needed to understand why. We met at a quiet park where we used to walk during our early days. She arrived late, wearing sunglasses and a stiff trench coat, her hands shaking. I never meant to hurt you, she began. I didn't speak. She kept going. Ryan promised things you couldn't give me, Ayan. Not money, power. Visibility. You were always playing it safe. I laughed bitterly. So you destroyed me for visibility? Her eyes flared. You don't understand. I was drowning. You controlled everything. You made all the decisions. I was just your muse, your asset. Is that how you justify forging my name? I snapped. You were drowning, so you set me on fire. She didn't deny it. Didn't even look sorry. I had to survive, she said. Even if it meant starting over without you. That was it. The mask was off. No more guilt, no more illusions. Mira wasn't the girl I fell in love with. She was something else now, hungrier, colder, sharper. The woman before me didn't regret what she'd done. She only regretted getting caught. I stood to leave, and she called after me. You'll regret this. If I go down, you'll go down too. I turned, calm. You already took everything from me, Mira. There's nothing left to lose. She flinched. And that's when I realized the truth. Mira thought she'd always win because she had always gotten away with it. Charm, beauty, talent, it had shielded her from consequences her whole life. But this time, the man she betrayed had built her platform. And he knew exactly how to tear it down. That night, I published a personal essay. Not through tabloids, but in a reputable business journal. I laid it bare, our partnership, our story, the betrayal, the evidence. No rage, no slander, just facts. Measured. Controlled. Unignorable. It went viral. Comments flooded in. Some disbelieving. Others enraged. Many sympathetic. More former collaborators of Myra's came forward. Apparently, I wasn't the first person she'd cut out once they stopped being useful. She had a pattern: collect, rise, discard. Ryan, sensing the fallout, began distancing himself. First it was no comments, then a creative pause, and finally, an exclusive interview. I didn't know the depth of the situation. I was misled. Coward. And yet, expected. Mira, now alone, started scrambling. She offered settlements. She blamed legal clerical errors. She even tried rebranding Aslan Designs to something entirely new, Mira. Desperate. But the damage was done. The court ruled in my favor. She was forced to relinquish all profits made from stolen designs and dissolve Aslan Designs. Ryan publicly exited the fashion space to reflect. I walked out of that courtroom not with a smirk, but with a silence Mira would never understand. Because while she fought for attention, I fought for truth. And truth, when sharp enough, cuts deeper than any betrayal. But the scars? Those I'd have to live with. 3 weeks after the ruling, I got an invitation. Hand-delivered. No name. No sender. Just a white envelope, sealed in red wax like something out of a period drama. Inside was a single card. Private showcase, Mira, one night only. For those who still believe in transformation. The location? An old art gallery in Gulberg. The time? 7 p.m. The message was clear, it was Myra's last stand. I almost didn't go. I told myself I had nothing left to prove. She was disgraced. Her brand was discredited. Her silence online had become a funeral bell in an industry that moved faster than memory. But something pulled me there. Maybe curiosity. Maybe closure. The gallery was dimly lit, minimalist. Soft music played in the background, violins weaving around whispered conversations. About 20 guests mingled, mostly bloggers, influencers, and a few stylists who'd once championed her. Then she entered. Dressed in a crimson gown that looked like it was stitched from fire, Mira walked through the crowd like she still owned every inch of the room. Her chin was high, her smile forced but present. She stopped when she saw me. Something flickered across her face, shock, fear, maybe even hope. "Ayan," she said, crossing the room. "You came." I nodded once. Curiosity, not support. She flinched, but recovered quickly. "I wanted you to see it. What I made without you." I glanced around. Dresses hung from steel frames, spotlit like museum pieces. The designs were beautiful. They always were. Mira had talent, that was never in question. But this time, they felt empty. Lacking the structure, the grounding, the heartbeat. "You want me to admit they're good?" I asked. "Fine. They are." Her eyes narrowed. "Then why does it still feel like I lost?" I looked at her then, not the carefully curated image, not the persona she sold to the world, but her. The woman I once loved. The woman who gutted me and smiled while doing it. "Because you didn't just betray a man," I said quietly. "You betrayed someone who built you a home when the world didn't know your name. Someone who loved you even when you doubted yourself. You didn't just lie, you rewrote history. And worse, you started believing your own version." I was suffocating, she whispered. "You made every decision. You never let me fly. I gave you wings," I shot back. "You just wanted to fly alone." Her expression cracked. "I thought I needed Ryan. I thought he saw me." "No," I said. "He saw value. He used you for it. And when it was gone, so was he." Silence settled between us. A heavy, bitter silence. "You think I deserve this," she said. The fall. The shame. The silence. I didn't answer immediately. Finally, I said, "I don't think you deserve nothing. I think you deserve to start again, without someone else's foundation under your feet. Without using people like ladders. Maybe then, what you build will actually be yours." She turned away, jaw tight, hands shaking. "You always think you're the noble one." "No," I said, softer now. "I just decided not to become you." She faced me again, and in her eyes, I saw it. Not love. Not regret. But recognition. For the first time, she saw me not as the man she once sculpted into her savior, her partner, her safe bet, but as the man who now stood, unburned, holding her ashes. "You win," she whispered. I shook my head. There are no winners here, Mira. Only survivors. And with that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, the music continued. The guests sipped wine, commented on cuts and colors. But the center of the room, the woman who once shone brighter than them all, stood completely, devastatingly, alone. In the weeks that followed Myra's failed showcase, the industry moved on. Design houses withdrew their silent support. Influencers scrubbed their old posts, unwilling to be tied to controversy. Even her once loyal interns found placements elsewhere, their resumes curiously omitting Aslin Designs or Mira. She tried to salvage her brand through social media, new content, vulnerable posts, thinly veiled apologies disguised as reflections. But people had already formed their opinion. In an industry built on perception, once your credibility fades, talent alone isn't enough. I should have felt triumphant. I didn't. The legal win didn't repair the holes left in me. And vindication never filled the silence of an apartment that used to be full of laughter, fabric scraps, and future plans. I wasn't grieving Mira anymore. I was grieving the man I had been with her, the man who believed love could survive ambition, who thought loyalty would be repaid in kind. But some people don't just leave you. They peel your identity from your bones, then pretend it was theirs all along. Still, there was healing in the ruin. I rebranded the company. Dropped the name Mirai, painful as it was. Started fresh. Small again. Quiet. Intentional. I called it Roman Atelier, my surname standing alone for the first time. To my surprise, the market responded. Clients began trickling in, first from sympathy, then from trust. The designs I showcased, ones I'd co-developed but never pushed, were finally mine to present. Clean. Elegant. Unapologetic. Inaya became a close confidant. She helped restructure the creative process, more as an advisor than a partner. She refused to take a stake in the company. You don't owe me anything, she'd said. Just promise me you'll build this on your terms this time. I did. I stopped chasing recognition, stopped designing with revenge in mind. What began as a war to reclaim what I'd lost became something else, a way to remind myself I still had value without her. That I wasn't just a footnote in Myra's reinvention arc. As for her, the last I heard, she was teaching design workshops in another city. Off-grid. Rebuilding, maybe. Part of me hopes she finds peace. But the rest of me remembers that forgiveness doesn't mean returning what was stolen, it just means you stop letting it poison your future. So I forgive her. Not for her sake. But for mine. Because I deserve a future that isn't haunted by her shadow. And in learning that, I finally became someone she never expected me to be. Whole. Without her. They say you should never build your dreams around another person. I used to think that was cynical, until Mira.